class. I am going to share with you my MLA Works Cited lecture because a lot of students missed it. And this may be more than you've ever wanted to know about citations, but I hope that it will be helpful to you so that even if you don't just use the MLA citation format, you can get some insight about what all of the elements of a citation are. So let's look at that. We are going to go through each of these different boxes, these colors, and talk about what each of them are. Um, Not all citations will have all of this information. Um, Usually they'll have at least a few of them, but not all. Let's begin with author. If you cite an author, if you only have one author, you cite it like this: last name, comma, first name, period. Just like that. And it would look something like that. If you are using a source, um, like an internet source, you can usually find the author's name right underneath the title of the article. You may have to scroll down to the end, and often if they do that, they also include the author's biography or other information about the author. When I put this together, I copied and pasted because I didn't know how to spell that name. Because I copied and pasted it, I had to remove all of the formatting, remove the link, and then set it up in this order: Ryan, comma, Ethan, maybe. I don't know. It looks like a Welsh name, so those are hard to pronounce. Um, what if you have two authors? If you have two authors, you punctuate it like this. You have first name or last name, comma, first name, comma, and first, last, period. So it would look something like this, where you have last name, comma, and first name, last name, period. What if you have three or more authors? A lot of journals include lots of authors. In that case, you do the first person listed in the article and you put it like this: last, comma, first, comma, plus et al. The et al is an abbreviation, so you put periods, and it will look something like that. What does et al mean? Well, it means "and all those guys," and it really shortens our citations. Let's say you have all of these authors in your list of works cited. Um, the way that you set up your citations is that you alphabetize your list of sources by the author's last name. So that would look like this. B comes before E, EL comes before ES. So that's how you alphabetize your authors. Next piece of a citation could be an article title. Not all of you will have an article title every time, but often you will. So this could be an essay from a magazine, a web page, not the website, a book chapter, an article from a journal, a song, or a TV episode. The way that this looks is that you put quotation marks around the article's title and you put a period inside the article, inside of the quotations. So let's look at this example. This is the title from this source. You can copy and paste that and put that straight into your citation that we had already started by this author. Put our quotation marks on either side of the article name and a period inside the quotation marks. So with your article title, you capitalize all the words, except for the little words. These can be conjunctions, articles, or short prepositions. So this would be like this: title of the article. Or if you have a little word that's the first word of the title, you do capitalize it. So there's a lot of exceptions here. So the capital, title, capital, of the lowercase article. Let's say that your article that you're citing has this like weird line in between it, or maybe a colon. That means that this hanging indent is the title, and whatever follows is the subtitle. So when we set this up, um, we actually changed this character from a line into a colon. Another thing I noticed, I didn't even add a slide about this, but in this, there's an and symbol, an ampersand, but I went ahead and changed it to the word and because that's more correct in a citation format. So when you have a subtitle, you separate the title and subtitle with a colon. This is an example of a situation where the source that I've cited is in APA format, not MLA. Because of that, all of the there are all these little lowercase first words, first letters, because that's how they do it in APA. So because I'm citing this in MLA, I had to go and capitalize all of those words. So even though I copied and pasted it, I had to make some adjustments. This goes the other way around. Let's say that I wrote an article in MLA format and I have all these capitals. If you're changing that to be APA for your paper, then you'll have to go through and turn those uppercases into lower cases. So let's say you don't have an author. In that case, you start with the citation with the article's title. When you set up your Works Cited page, you alphabetize your citations by the first letter of the article title. So let's say you want to cite this episode from The Fall of the House of Usher. The episode's name is Murder in the Rue Morgue. So for this, it will look like this. We start here. A lot of times TV shows don't have an author. They may have directors, performers, all those kinds of things. But generally speaking, we want to cite either an episode or the series itself. When you don't have an author, you alphabetize by the first non-little letter of the article. So M comes before R. So this citation comes before the next. The next piece of your citation could be the container. What's a container? It could be a TV series in which an episode is placed, a magazine in which an article is published, a book, a journal, a website, an album, any kind of big thing, a newspaper, perhaps, the big thing in which a whole bunch of little things are contained. The way that this works is that you go ahead and capitalize all the words, just like you do with the article title. Just like an article title, there's an exception for the little words, unless the little word is the first word. Same rules as with article titles. Unlike article titles that end with a period and a quotation mark, here we have an italicized, this container name is italicized, and it's followed by a comma. And there is a exception to that, which I'll get to. So if you're looking at a website, frequently you can find the website's name in the upper left-hand corner. They usually have some sort of icon associated with the website that might help you find it. Another place you can look is in the URL. Frequently, the first word in the URL is the name of the container. In this case, here we have the container. We've copied and pasted. I actually spelled it wrong, so I'll have to fix that someday. I put it in italics and ended it with a comma. Here's The Fall of the House of Usher. That is the container in which you find the episode Murder in the Rue Morgue. I've italicized it and ended it with a comma. But let's say you don't have an author or an article title. You can begin with the container as well. So you start with container, you alphabetize by that first letter in the container, and you change that comma to a period. If you don't have an article title, there's a comma or a period here. if you don't have an article title in your citation, that means that we need to move this period from here and put it here at the end of container. Um, this is also true if you don't have an article title, but you do have an author. You still change that period, that comma into a period here. You move it from being after the article title to being after the container. So let's say instead of citing the episode Murder in the Rue Morgue, we just want to cite the entire series, The Fall of the House of Usher. In that case, um, we will put a period at the end, and then whatever comes next, it may be something that's lowercase. So here it was a lowercase p. It could be something like this season S. You'll need to go in and capitalize it because you've just ended a sentence and started another. So you'll alphabetize by the first non-little letter of the container. So we skip the and we start on F. F comes before R, so it becomes before the the next source. The next type of element of a MLA citation is a contributor. Come on. There we go. Contributors can be illustrators, translators, editors, producers, conductors, directors, narrators, choreographers, or performers, like in an episode of a TV series. The way that you want to do this, you don't really need to include a contributor unless you have some feature on them in the paper that you've written. So generally you can leave it off. But let's say you want to um, make a big deal about someone's role in the production of whatever it is that you're writing about, then you do want to list the contributor. The way that this looks in your citation is that you actually go ahead and give us the full verb of what they did. So let's say this is our editor. It was edited by, so we have a lowercase e and then by. Then we have first, last, comma, and our first letters are capitalized. So the biggest thing here is figuring out the right verbs to describe what they've done. Translated by this person, adapted for television by this person, performed by this person. A lot of sources don't have contributors, and even if they did, they don't list them anywhere where you can find them, which means you don't need to worry about it. One of the places where you do find contributors are in the kind of digital media and pop culture things that you may want to cite. So like in this episode, if we're citing the performance by one of the actors, that's where we would pull in a contributor. In this case, we have The Fall of the House of Usher, comma, performed by Carla Gugino, comma. Again, there's a lot of things that you may be able to find by you may have to dig a little bit to find somebody. Let's say you want to talk about like the director, the creator of the series. In that case, you might have to dig. I clicked on the more information thing, found this to discover that it was created by Mike Flanagan. That's another example. Version is the next piece that you may have. This is for books with multiple editions or revisions. Some things to note is that you abbreviate edition, it becomes ED. It's lowercase too. It's because it's an abbreviation, you put a period, and then you follow the whole thing with a comma. You use ordinal numbers, which means that it will end in ND or TH. And they are Arabic numerals, which means that you write 1-5 rather than FIFTEENTH to do that. We have this book here. You can see right here that it's a 4th edition. Sometimes the edition is hiding here or maybe even on the copyright page. So you can find the version information by looking. For this book, it would look like this, where you have 4 THED period comma. The next piece that you may have are numbers. This is for journals, TV series, comic books, podcasts, and books with multiple volumes, like encyclopedias. Any of these kinds of documents that use volume and issue or season and episode numbers. So one thing that you do is that you separate those numbers with commas. So volume number 5 or volume 5, comma, number 2, comma, or season 12, comma, episode 3, comma. You'll notice that they are all lowercase. We abbreviated the words volume and number and put a period after those abbreviations, but we did not abbreviate season and episode. I don't know why. It's just the way it is. So we can get our season and episode number from Netflix is good about providing that information. Go ahead and pop it on in there. That's good information to include so that if you're citing this one, it may be kind of relevant that this is the third episode. I don't know, could not be, but it may be. Um, for journals, you sometimes have to play hunt and find with the seek and find. Um, with if you've gotten it online, it will often have it at the top of the first page where you can find the volume and number. If you're looking at in a print version, it'll sometimes be on the spine or in the first title pages of the article. You may notice when you look at this that they are capitalized. So when I put together this citation, I had to make the volume and number lowercase. The next piece that you could have is the publisher's name. Publisher is followed by comma. You also use the capitalize all words except the little words, unless the little word is the first word rules. The publisher is like our article title and our container title in that. So here's a book that will have a publisher. And so here is our publisher. It's Broadway Books. And so it will look like this. You can also sometimes find your publisher information on the copyright page too. So here we have we ended the part right before with a comma. Broadway Books, it's capitalized, the first two letters, and we have a comma. So this is mostly used with books. A couple of notes that you can use, especially if you're going into grad school, this will be helpful. You will want to replace words like university press with UP. So that's a really common thing is to have university press as part of the name of a publisher. So Chicago University Press or University of Chicago Press. That simplifies your citation a little bit. We also recommend that you eliminate or at least abbreviate business words. So company becomes CO. What does this look like? Oh, I thought I had an example of this. Well, I think I do at the end. The next piece is your date. This is the date of publication. With books, you'd usually just have a year, so it'd be like 1985. A lot of other sources like websites and journals, they may have more information. They may have a month and a year or a day, month and year. And so if you have all three, you put it in this order, 13 May 1985, so day, month, year. That's how the rest of the world sets up dates. We're West Americans are weird. We do it with month, day, year. You can also abbreviate your month, go 6 oct and put a period and then, whoops, I think I forgot to mention that it's always followed by a comma. So sometimes, again, sometimes they make it easy on you and put your publication date right on top. You also sometimes have to dig into it somehow to find it. And sometimes it just plain doesn't have a publication date. Here, you look at this, you can see that it's not in the proper order, so I had to rearrange it when I set up my citation. And then I added my comma and a URL. So in a book, you can usually find the date of publication on the copyright page. Go with the most recent one because that's the one that you're looking at right now. This book was originally published in 2007, but that book is different. The page numbers are probably different. There's probably other things that are different about it. So we want to cite the one that you're actually using. Here, it'll look like this. We have our publisher, Broadway Books, comma, and date. In this case, it's the last entry, so you can see that I've gone ahead and put a period there. And frequently, it will be the last piece of your citation. Netflix is really good about telling us when things were published or when they were released, in the case of an episode. So you can find that here. It's episode 3, comma, 2023, period. And then the next piece I'll explain here in just a minute. The next part of this is the location. So like I said, sometimes you end it here after the date, especially with books. But sometimes you actually have to cite a location. What is this? This can refer to book or journal page numbers, or it could refer to online URLs. So the way that you would cite a single page in a citation, Works Cited is P period 180. But if you want to do a range of page numbers, if it's longer than just one page, you do PP period and then the page numbers. Online URLs for a source, you copy and paste the entire thing in there and end it with a period. In this case, you will have a period following location in every time that you include it. So when you're working with a book, a print source, you'll have to sometimes hunt for this yourself. So I found the end of well, okay, so if you're citing a chapter of a book, then you do want to include a range of pages. If you're citing the whole book, you don't need page numbers, but if you're just citing one chapter, you will need to give the page range. So here, a lot of times that they don't have the first page number of a chapter anywhere where you can see it. And so you have to go to the next one and then use your math and -1. And you have to go and find where the chapter ends. So here we have our date, comma, PP 3 through 11. So here I've cited just a chapter from the book. Thank you for arguing. When I just did the book itself, the full book, I had ended my citation after the date and did not include page numbers. And so that's one of those little details that that might be something that you need to think about. The location for a website is straight from the URL. You can copy and paste it and pop it on in there. And again, we want to end your sentence with a period. If you don't have a location, you cite a full book and not just a chapter, you just aren't going to have any page numbers. And so in that case, you put a period after the date. Let's say you don't have a date. Well, you put the period after the publisher. What if you don't have a publisher? Well, you just keep going back and back and back until you find a place for a period. Okay, the last two pieces are if the thing that you found it contained within a bigger thing. So these are usually academic library databases or streaming services. So this is what we call the second container. It's the place you found the item that you're citing. Like I said, it's usually an academic database that you got from a library or a streaming service. So you may have something like EBSCOhost here or Netflix or I don't know, SoundCloud or something like that. With this, it is uppercase and the same rules that we have for all of those other ones, for other titles. You put the title in italics and you end with a comma. So in the case of this episode of the series, The Fall of the House of Usher, I saw that in Netflix because this is like a Russian doll where you have the episode inside the season and then the season inside the database. That is our second container. And so here we ended the first piece of this citation with the date. And then I cited Netflix, comma, and then the next thing. And Netflix is italicized. So this article that I cited from earlier, I found it in a database called EBSCOhost. Here, this is one of those weird ones where this big discovery service looks like it's the title, but actually, because I know, because I've done this a lot, I know it's actually EBSCO. You might not know that, so this is a case where you can find that information by going to the citation. Now, when I copied and pasted it, there were problems and I had to make adjustments, but it was pretty close. And so I copied and pasted and then made my little adjustments, italicized and a comma following it. The last thing that you will have if you've gotten a source from a second container is the URL associated with the database. So EBSCOhost, it'll look something like this, and Netflix, it'll look something like this. We end with a period. You can actually include the full URL for the specific item if you can at this point. See if we go back. If you look at this one, this is the URL associated with this particular item. Instead of putting the location here, I mean, honestly, we had page numbers as the location here, but because of that, I can actually put the HTML here to describe where you can find it. With this one, this is the Netflix URL that we use to find that episode of the Murder in the Rue Morgue episode. This is the end, so don't forget your periods again. So this is the URL. You should know that by now. Copied and pasted straight on into my document. Here, I found this one at the top of the document. And like I said, you can also go and find it by looking at the citation on the database that you used. And so for this one, I went ahead and used the citation to get me that number because I can copy and paste it from there. And that's all the pieces. Here is a basic everything, all the things that you may need to know about how to do this. I tried to include every little thing. Last name, comma, first name, period, quotation mark, capitalize, quotation mark, period, actually period, then quotation mark. Italicized, your container name, followed by a period. Edited by first, last, the E is lowercase, the name is capitalized. Second edition with a period, then comma, Arabic numerals, and cardinal in NDTH numbers. Volume period 1, comma, number period 2, comma. Chicago UP Inc. UP and Inc. are our abbreviations, followed by comma. We have a date, 1 March, that's abbreviated with the period, 1999, comma. PP, that's our location. It could be a page number or it could be a URL. The pages are 20 to 29, end with a period. The database that we got it from, our second container, we italicized that name, followed by a comma, and then include the full URL and end it with a period. Here's what it may look like, an example where we have all kinds of everything that's part of it included. And one thing to note is that I do have a handout, and I will put that in the link or in the description in the link. If you have any questions, go ahead and email me. You know how to do that. And I think that's it.